Some sort of a direct energy
Weapon?
I have no idea.
So they're looking for ones that have passed through the Earth, that have come from other places.
The U.S. Navy has unveiled a technology so advanced they claim it's nearly unstoppable. A laser weapon capable of neutralizing threats in an instant.
Three viral images appearing to show evidence of directed energy weapons have been shared online. But do these images really show that directed energy weapons started the wildfires in Maui?
On the Joe Rogan Experience, Joe Rogan and his guests dive into topics like this.
There's no explosion, there's no nothing, and this guy just gets turned into dust.
Unpacking the implications of cutting-edge military breakthroughs.
If you kill people that aren't just the target, you galvanize that group. You seen this?
No.
This thing is insane.
This isn't just about firepower, it's about a shift in how wars might be fought. What does it mean when a weapon moves at the speed of light? Stay with us as we explore the Navy's bold step forward and why Joe's conversations keep us hooked on the future.
It's interesting because I can tell, like, when you're talking to that guy that was talking about the direct energy weapons in Antarctica, all that crazy shit, like, you wanted to hear what the guy had to say.
They would be the people actively working.
The Navy's laser breakthrough. So let's get into the meat of this thing. Picture this: May 16th, 2020, somewhere in the vast Pacific Ocean. The USS Portland, this massive amphibious transport ship, is cruising along, and suddenly a drone pops up on the radar. Not a big deal, right? Except this time, they don't fire a missile or a cannon. Nope. A beam of light shoots out, and bam, that drone's toast. This wasn't some Hollywood stunt. It was the US Navy testing their solid-state laser.
This is the only image released so far of that test. US Navy has a shiny new toy, capable of downing drones at the speed of light and for pennies on the dollar.
Technology Maturation Laser Weapon System Demonstrator, or LWSD for short. Real mouthful, I know, but stick with me. It's worth it. This test wasn't just a flex, it was a game changer. The Navy's been playing with lasers since the 1960s, but this was the first time they'd put a high-energy laser like this into action on a ship like the Portland. We're talking about a San Antonio-class vessel, 684 feet long, built to haul troops and gear, now armed with something that looks like it belongs in Star Wars. The LWSD, developed by the Office of Naval Research and Northrop Grumman, blasted that unmanned aerial vehicle, or UAV, right out of the sky. No explosions, no debris raining down, just a clean zap. The Navy even dropped a video of it, showing this bright beam slicing through the air, and you can almost hear the sci-fi sound effects in your head. Why is this a big deal?
If you're looking at a boat coming in over the water, you can target exactly the engine and take out exactly the engine and not necessarily damage anything else.
Well, drones are everywhere now. Cheap, easy to make, and a real pain for militaries. Imagine a swarm of them buzzing toward a ship. Old-school weapons like missiles cost a fortune per shot, tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes more. But this laser, it's powered by the ship's own energy.
The most crazy movie across into real world thing that I've learned about, have you seen this?
No.
This thing is insane.
As long as the engines are humming, it's got juice. Some estimates say it's like $1 a shot. $1. That's less than your morning coffee.
A cost per shot of a Locust laser weapon is really $3.
Captain Kerry Sanders, the Portland's commanding officer back then, called it a unique capability. And he wasn't kidding. They're not just testing it for kicks, they're figuring out how it handles real threats. Fast forward a bit, and this tech's only gotten better. By 2024, the Navy tested the Helios system, high-energy laser with integrated optical dazzler and surveillance, on the USS Preble. That one's a 60-kilowatt beast, strong enough to power 60 homes, and it took down another drone in the Western Pacific. Photos show this glowing beam cutting through the sky, and it's honestly kind of mesmerizing. The Navy's been tight-lipped about some details like exact locations or full power levels, but they're loud and clear about one thing. This is the future of defense. They're not attacking with it yet, just neutralizing threats like drones and small boats, but who knows where it's headed? Now you might be wondering, did they really say it can't be stopped? Not exactly in those words, but the vibe's there. When you've got a weapon hitting targets at the speed of light with no ammo to reload, it's hard to argue against. The Navy's own statements call it efficient and effective, and when you see it in action, you get why. It's not invincible, weather like fog can mess with it, and it needs a beefy power supply, but against the right threat. Good luck dodging a laser. It's like trying to outrun your shadow.
Timed 2 of those things. Comes out, and that's it. There's no explosion, there's no nothing, and this guy just gets turned into dust.
So, as we're sitting here marveling at this, you've got to ask, how does something this wild even work? I mean, it's not magic, right? Well, let's peel back the curtain a bit and see what makes this thing tick. Because the tech behind it is just as nuts as the results.
The concept of using laser beams as weapons has been around in science fiction almost since its inception. The airborne laser is capable of shooting down missiles, artillery shells, and enemy aircraft from several hundred kilometers away. So how does it work?
How laser weapons work. Alright, so the Navy's out there zapping drones with lasers, and it's cool as hell, but how does it actually happen? Let's break it down, because this isn't just some flashlight on steroids. These are directed energy weapons, and they've got some serious science behind them. Imagine taking chemical and electrical energy, turning it into a super-focused beam of light, and then pointing it at something you want gone. That's the gist of it, but the details, they're wild. First off, these lasers, like the LWSD or HELIOS, start with a power source. On a ship like the USS Portland, that's the vessel's own generators, churning out electricity from diesel or gas turbines. That juice gets fed into what's called a solid-state laser system. Unlike old-school gas lasers, these use solid materials, like crystals or glass, doped with rare elements to generate the beam. It's more compact, more efficient, and doesn't need a ton of weird chemicals sloshing around. The energy gets pumped into this material, exciting the atoms until they spit out photons, tiny packets of light. Those photons bounce around, get amplified, and then bam, you've got a laser beam. Here's where it gets crazy. That beam's focused through lenses and mirrors into something so tight, it's like a needle of light. We're talking speed of light travel, 186,000 miles per second. No bullet or missile can touch that. When it hits a target, like a drone, it dumps all that energy into one spot. For something small, it might burn through circuits or melt plastic in seconds. For bigger stuff, it could heat up metal until it fails. The Helios, at 60 kilowatts, can hit targets up to 5 miles away, and it's not just about destruction. It can also blind sensors, throwing off an enemy's game plan. The big win here? No ammo limits. Traditional weapons run out. Missiles, shells, bullets, they're finite. But as long as the ship's got power, this laser keeps firing.
The ability to have essentially an infinite magazine at a very, very low cost of engagement at very, very effective ranges across a wide swath of threats.
It's like having an infinite clip in a video game, except it's real life. Plus, it's precise. You're not lobbing explosives and hoping for the best. You're painting a target with light. Less mess, less risk to nearby friendlies. The Navy loves that for defending against swarms of drones or speedy boats, threats that are popping up more and more. But it's not all smooth sailing. These systems need a ton of power. Think tens or hundreds of kilowatts. Smaller ships might struggle to keep up without a major upgrade. And then there's the weather. Fog, rain, or heavy dust can scatter the beam, cutting its range or power. That's why the Navy's still testing, tweaking things like beam directors, fancy setups that steer the laser, and cooling systems to keep it from overheating. They've even started weaving in AI to track targets better, because you try hitting a drone buzzing around at 50 miles an hour with a laser pointer. So, yeah, it's advanced, but it's not perfect yet. And that's what makes it so fascinating. Joe Rogan's talked about stuff like this on his show, right? He's always digging into how tech's changing the world, especially when it's got a military edge. Let's see what he's had to say about this kind of thing, because you know he's got some spicy takes.
Some sort of a direct energy weapon. I have no idea.
So they're looking for ones that have passed through the Earth, that have come from other places.
Wow.
Joe Rogan's take on military tech. Now, if you're into the Joe Rogan experience, you know Joe's not one to shy away from big ideas, especially when it's about tech that sounds like it's from the future. He's got this knack for sitting down with all kinds of people, comedians, scientists, ex-military, and just letting them spill the wildest stuff.
I've seen a lot of talk of that online. Right, so the government is holding back that secret from the direct resources within the government that are responsible for finding these systems.
So did he talk about the Navy's 2020 laser test on the USS Portland?
So the thing that I had heard was that it was a missing nuke.
Not directly, at least not in any episode we can pin down. But has he dug into military tech that's just as mind-blowing? Oh, you bet he has.
If you kill people that aren't just the target, you you seen this?
No.
This thing is insane.
Take episode 1840 with Mark Andreessen, recorded back in July 2022. They're riffing on AI-powered jets. Think planes going Mach 5, 5 times the speed of sound. Mark's like, imagine 1,000 of these coming at you, and Joe's just eating it up.
Imagine, 1,000 of these things like coming over the horizon right at you. And
he's all about how tech flips the script on war, less about boots on the ground, more about who's got the slickest gear. Lasers didn't come up, but you can see Joe's wheels turning about stuff like the LWSD. He's the kind of guy who'd geek out over a ship zapping drones with light, probably cracking a joke about how we're one step away from lightsabers.
Kiss the ring.
yes, exactly.
Then there's episode 1957 with Ryan Graves, a former Navy pilot. They're deep into UFOs, unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAPs as the pros call them. Ryan's talking about these weird objects he saw, moving in ways no human tech could match, and Joe's hooked.
What is this, right? It's not a UFO or something mysterious at this point. It's at what we're thinking at this point we see on the radar is just, well, our radar is broken, right?
He's asking, what if this is some next-level military stuff we don't even know about? Now, the Navy's laser isn't a UFO, but it's got that same vibe, something so advanced it feels alien. Joe's fascination with unstoppable tech shines through here. He's not just nodding along, he's pushing Ryan to spill more, like, how do we even compete with that?
How to protect ourselves, how to accumulate resources so that we can be safe, and how to develop walls and cities and urbanization and all these different things.
And don't forget Sean Ryan, ex-Navy SEAL, on episode 2207 from September 2024. They're swapping stories about military life, but it drifts into how tech's changing the game. Sean's seen some crazy stuff from his SEAL days, and Joe's all about connecting it to today. He's like, dude, what's the wildest thing you've seen that's out there now? They don't name drop the laser, but you can bet Joe's mind would have gone there if Sean had. He loves that mix of real-world grit and futuristic edge, perfect fit for a laser that never runs out of ammo.
But the way you do it and the way I do it is, I think that's why it's interesting. Because I can tell, like, when you're talking to that guy that was talking about the direct energy weapons in Antarctica, all that crazy shit, like, you wanted to hear what the guy had to say.
Yeah. Joe's style is what makes this work. He's not some stiff news anchor. He's your buddy at the bar who's just as curious as you. He'll toss out a what the hell's that about, or laugh about how we're all screwed if this gets out of hand. It's casual, but he's sharp, always tying it back to what it means for us regular folks. Like, could this laser tech keep us safe, or is it just another toy for the big dogs? He's not afraid to poke at it either, maybe wonder if the Navy's overselling it a bit, classic Joe skepticism. What's cool is how he bridges this stuff to bigger questions. With Mark, it's about AI and war's future. With Ryan, it's unexplained tech pushing boundaries. With Sean, it's the human side of wielding power. If he did tackle the Navy's laser head-on, you'd get that same vibe. Part awe, part whoa, hold up, what's the catch? It's why people tune in. He's not just reciting facts, he's chewing on them with you. So, as Joe's out there unpacking this kind of thing, it's worth looking back, because the Navy didn't just wake up with lasers one day. This has been brewing for decades, and the story's pretty nuts. Let's roll it back and see how they got here.
New video from the Navy shows what may be the future of modern close-in warfare.
The evolution of Navy lasers. All right, let's rewind the clock a bit. The idea of lasers on Navy ships isn't some overnight brainstorm. It's been cooking since the 1960s. Back then, the Cold War was in full swing, and the US was eyeballing anything that could give them an edge over the Soviets. Lasers were this shiny new toy, think less pew-pew and more, maybe we can burn a hole through a missile someday. The Navy started small, tinkering with low-power stuff in labs, trying to figure out if light could really pack a punch. It was slow going. Early systems were clunky, power-hungry, and nowhere near ready for a ship. Fast forward to the 1980s, and things got serious. The Navy teamed up with DARPA, that's the Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency, the folks behind some of the wildest military tech, and started testing bigger lasers.
It's their new laser gun, which is shown hitting targets on ships at sea and shooting a drone out of the sky. Because it doesn't fire or launch anything, it's a fraction of the cost per use of other weapon systems. Comes out at under $1 a shot compared to some missiles costing hundreds of thousands of dollars.
They weren't ship ready yet, but they could fry small targets on land. By the 90s, the tech was inching closer, but it was still more science project than weapon. Then September 11th hit and the game changed. Suddenly, cheap drones and fast boats became real threats stuff missiles were overkill for. The Navy dusted off their laser plans and said, "All right, let's make this work." Enter the Laser Weapon System, or LAW-WS, in 2014. The USS Ponce, an old amphibious ship hanging out in the Persian Gulf, got rigged with a 30-kilowatt laser, about half the juice of today's Helios. It wasn't fancy, just a big box on deck, but it worked. They zapped drones and small boats, and the footage is honestly kind of eerie.
Operationally, it works just like a laser pointer. There's a chamber inside with special materials that release photons.
This silent beam slicing through the air, no bang, no smoke. Cost per shot? Pennies. The Navy was stoked, calling it a historic milestone. It wasn't perfect, range was short, and it struggled in bad weather, but it proved lasers could live on the water. That set the stage for 2020 and the USS Portland test we talked about earlier. The LWSD bumped the power up, hitting 150 kilowatts, and took out a UAV like it was nothing. It wasn't just a one-off either. By 2021, they were testing it again in the Gulf of Aden, showing it could handle real-world conditions. Then came Helios in 2024 on the USS Preble, a 60-kilowatt system with bells and whistles like dazzling sensors to blind enemies. Each step built on the last, shrinking the gear, boosting the power, and making it practical for a fleet. What's wild is how far they've come. Back in the 60s, this was a pipe dream. Lasers were for blinding spies, not downing drones. Now, they're eyeing 300-kilowatt systems like Hellcat, tested in 2024, that could tackle bigger threats, maybe even missiles. It's a slow burn, decades of trial and error, but the Navy's all in. They've got ships like destroyers and carriers in mind. Imagine a fleet where every vessel's got a laser turret. Sounds nuts, right? But that's where this road's been leading. Thing is, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. This tech's got some hurdles, and they're not small. Curious about what's holding it back and where it might go next? Let's dig into that because the future's looking pretty intense.
The Preble is the first U.S. Navy destroyer to get the Helios upgrade, but Naval News says the service already installed the software to operate Helios on at least 5 other naval destroyers.
Challenges and future potential. So the Navy's got these lasers lighting up the sky, and it's awesome, but it's not flawless. Let's talk about what's tripping them up, because even the coolest tech has its kryptonite. First off, power. These things are thirsty. The LWSD on the Portland? It's pulling 150 kilowatts, enough to run a small neighborhood. The Helios at 60 kilowatts is lighter, but still, you need a ship with serious juice. Older vessels or smaller ones like frigates might not cut it without a major overhaul. It's not like you can just plug this into a wall socket and call it a day. Ships need beefy generators, and that's a logistics nightmare. Then there's the weather. Lasers sound unstoppable until you throw fog, rain, or a sandstorm at them. Water droplets and dust scatter the beam, cutting its range or fizzling it out. The Navy's tested in the Pacific and Gulf of Aden, sure, but those are controlled shots. Real combat's messier. Think stormy seas or a typhoon rolling in. They're working on it, tweaking beam directors to adjust focus, but it's not solved yet. Ever wonder why they don't brag about tests in a hurricane? Probably because it'd be a dud. Targeting's another beast. Drones zip around fast, 50-60 miles an hour, and you've got to lock on with pinpoint accuracy. That's where AI comes in, helping track and aim, like with the LLD system tested in 2022 at White Sands. It nailed a subsonic cruise missile, but it's still tricky, miss by a hair, and you're just warming up the sky. Plus, these systems get hot, literally. Firing too long without cooling fries the gear, so they've got to balance power and downtime. But here's the flip side. The potential's insane. If they crack the power issue, lasers could scale up 300 kilowatts, 500, maybe more. The Navy's already eyeing Hellcat for missile defense, and Northrop Grumman's pushing boundaries with prototypes. Imagine a destroyer taking out an incoming hypersonic missile with a laser, silent, cheap, and instant, or swarms of drones getting fried before they even get close. The cost angle's huge too. Missiles run $50,000 a pop minimum. Lasers, $1 or $2, that's a budget officer's dream. Future ships might be built around this. Nuclear-powered carriers with endless energy, lasering anything in sight. They're not there yet, but the Navy's got plans. Testing layered defenses where lasers handle small fry and missiles take the big hits. Could this really be unstoppable? Maybe not now, but give it a decade. Still, it's not just the US playing this game, other countries are watching. Want to know who else is in on the laser action? Let's check that out next. Similar tech. Around the world, okay, the US Navy's not the only one zapping stuff with lasers. Other nations are jumping in, and it's getting crowded. Take Israel. They've got the Iron Beam.
Well, it may become reality soon because Israel is reportedly rolling out a new defense system. It's the stuff of sci-fi movies. Israel calls it its defensive trump card. It's the Iron Beam anti-missile laser system.
A ground-based system that's been frying rockets since 2022. It's not ship-mounted, but it's 100 kilowatts of pure heat, designed to pair with their Iron Dome. Footage shows it slicing through mortars mid-flight, quiet, precise, and scary effective. They're not saying unstoppable, but against Hamas or Hezbollah barrages, it's a cheap way to save ammo. Then there's China. They're tight-lipped, but rumors say they've got a 30-kilowatt laser on a Type 055 destroyer since 2020. No videos, no big announcements, just whispers from defense analysts. If it's real, they're matching the US step for step, maybe eyeing drones or missiles in the South China Sea. Russia's in the mix too. Their Peresvet system's been around since 2018, blinding satellites or drones from the ground. It's not naval yet, but give Putin a minute, he loves a good arms race. The UK's got Dragonfire, a 50-kilowatt laser tested in 2023 on land, aiming for ships by 2027.
To target something about the size of a £1 coin, at X kilometers range. Once the pointing and tracking system has locked up that aim point on the target.
It's punched through drones at a few miles, and the Brits are hyping it as a budget-friendly defense. Germany's Rheinmetall has a 20-kilowatt system, zapping drones in trials, and they're scaling up fast. Point is, this isn't a solo act. Everyone's chasing the same prize, a laser that's cheap, fast, and lethal. What's different? The US is ahead on ship integration, Portland, Preble, real-world tests. Others are catching up, but they're mostly ground-based or experimental. Still, it's a global push. Lasers are the next big thing, and nobody wants to be left out. So, where's this all heading?